Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our chat today. My name is Katy Fredette, and I am a registered dietitian with Hannaford Supermarkets in Nashua, New Hampshire. You've all joined our chat today to learn about the way that nutrition can impact lead exposure and also in helping to correct lead toxicity. Looking at our conversation today, a couple of our objectives, we're going to look at the dangers of lead, something you might already be somewhat aware of. Also looking at ways that we can avoid lead, whether that be through food contact, personal hand hygiene, or our water system. We're going to look at ways that diet can help. Is this myth or is it fact? Can diet actually help with preventing lead toxicity or correcting it? Then I'm going to go into an overview of our Hannaford Dietitian program and how that can help our community members combat lead toxicity or just achieve overall health. That's our ultimate goal. I'm also going to touch upon a few community resources that I like to give accolades to, and I like to just call them out because they do important work. And then my moderator, Jessica, and I will go through a Q&A period. So what are the dangers of lead? When we're looking at lead, of course, we know that consumption of lead over a long period of time can result in learning and behavior problems. And as it accumulates in the body, this can lead to longer lasting effects. So it's not just this short-term consumption, but rather the long-term consumption that can impact a child or an adult's growth and development. We do notice that children and infants are more at risk for lead toxicity. And a lot of that has to do with their general size. They have less body fat, less muscle, less cells to be able to allow that to build up in than we as adults do. Also, if you are a parent like I am, or if you've been a parent in the past with young children, that is, they have an oral fixation, the hand-to-mouth thing. It's pretty commonplace. And my 3-year-old and 17-month-old will let you know it doesn't stop just then. So avoidance of lead, of course, right now we're going through the COVID-19 crisis, and we've been talking a lot about personal hand hygiene, and that's where a lot of this can start. So with the hand-to-mouth situation for children and infants, they can get lead-based dust, let's say chips of paint, peels, cracks of paint. That lead can be put onto their hands and then, of course, directly into their mouth. So washing your hands, your children's hands, especially with uncontaminated water, prior to their meals and snacks is quite useful in preventing lead toxicity. At this point, hopefully you're not using imported pottery or leaded crystal dishware, but you wouldn't want to serve your food or store your food in them because of the potential for leaching. Also, if you have young children in your home, or maybe you work for a child development center or you do in-home daycare, you would want to take time to really clean toys, pacifiers, floors, windowsills, any sort of surface in the environment that could potentially have lead-based paint, dust, chips, peels, and cracks. Also, something interesting, wipe or remove shoes before entering your home. And that's if you have been working in an environment that does have lead-based paint with any of the dust, chips, and peels. You can also have your home tested for the presence of lead-based paint. We see this being more common in homes built before the 1980s, 1978 specifically. If you are a renter or potentially have rental properties in the area, you can have your own property tested or have your landlord test it if you're concerned. And then, of course, we did talk about changes in public water and not using leaded pipes, but you can always have a NSF certified filter on drinking water fountains to help with that, or even using bottled water. So again, avoidance of lead, it's a team effort, but it can be done right in your household, your workplace, your child development center. So a big question, can your diet help with lead toxicity, lead exposure? Of course it can. It can help decrease the lead absorption specifically. We usually recommend following the dietary guidelines for Americans. The most recent dietary guidelines for Americans was released in 2015. We will see it released again in 2020. It's done every 5 years. We do recommend, just for a balanced diet for children and adults, to include fruits, vegetables, whole grains, protein-rich foods, and dairy products or dairy alternatives in the diet. One thing to think about is that when you have nutrient-dense food consumed, it's actually more difficult for the lead to be absorbed. With regard to the nutrient-dense foods, we do see in the Nashua area food insecurity as a large issue. Thankfully, we do have multiple food gleaning programs and community resources that help to allow for quality food being in individuals' households. This is for infants, children, families, and our seniors. We will talk about key nutrients that can help even more so with preventing the lead toxicity or lead buildup and absorption. They're going to be calcium, iron, and vitamin C. So you might know this infographic pretty well. This is actually from choosemyplate.gov. We call it MyPlate. Years ago, you might have remembered the infographic as a pyramid. I always joke with my clients and customers I work with at the store, kids and adults alike, that we don't eat off of a pyramid, we eat off of a plate. So the visual component to remind individuals that for a good quality diet, half your plate should be fruits and vegetables, about a quarter of it being whole grains, a quarter being lean protein offerings, whether plant-based or animal-based, and then also a small portion of your meal, including our dairy or dairy alternatives. So, other than just making sure you have enough food groups in your diet to achieve balance, some of the key nutrients I'm going to talk about are calcium, iron, and vitamin C. Starting off with calcium, calcium allows our bones to stay strong and it keeps lead out. Calcium-rich foods you might be familiar with, of course, our dairy products are cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese, ricotta, and milk. But we also have some of the less common ones that maybe you're not aware of. Canned salmon and sardines, those little teeny bones, those actually are calcium rich, and you can consume them in things like the canned salmon and the sardines. Green leafy vegetables, we have just had an abundant harvest, and even our community gardens grow Nashua. I'm sure they've had a lot of produce yielded. So green leafy vegetables, kale, spinach, maybe you're doing something like beet greens, mustard greens, or collard greens. Those all are loaded with calcium. And then calcium fortified foods. This could be something like tofu, orange juice, our dairy alternative milks, things like soy milk, almond milk, cashew milk, whatever is working in your household. So this is not saying you need a calcium supplement specifically to prevent lead absorption or toxicity. This is saying get it from the diet. We have a wide array of foods that are loaded with calcium, some that are plant-based and some of them are animal-derived. So it works for multiple populations. Next is iron. Iron also is really useful in blocking lead from being absorbed into the body. These types of foods we do see as plant or animal-based, thankfully. We look at things like our beans and our lentils, garbanzo beans, chickpeas, of course, is another name for them, kidney beans, pintos, lentils, pulses. Also popping up again are those leafy greens. Lean red meats, things like sirloin, top round, bottom round roast, anything that has the word loin in it tends to be leaner, 90-10 ground beef, or even seeing what you can get if you are on a fixed income, just getting something that is iron rich, even if it's an 80-20 ground beef or something like a 70-30 and just cooking it and then helping to maybe use water to rinse away some of the grease, of course, making sure the water is hot. We also have things like iron fortified cereals, breads, and pastas. We do fortify some of those products specifically because we have populations that are at risk for anemia, meaning less iron in their body. Dried fruit like raisins and prunes are also a great source of iron and things that have a good shelf life. So oftentimes we see those in our food type cleaning programs, food pantries offering them. I'm a big proponent of dried fruit, especially for the iron component. And then we've got vitamin C. So interestingly, vitamin C aids in iron absorption. So pairing vitamin C with some of the iron-rich foods on the last slide can actually help with preventing lead toxicity and absorption as well. So as we go into flu season, or we're trying to maybe up our ante in preventing COVID-19 or risk for it, we look at citrus fruits, it's oranges, grapefruits, but even things like strawberries, kiwi, and melon, they are loaded with vitamin C. So don't forget about them. Don't just think you have to run in and grab a thing of OJ to get your vitamin C in. Don't think you just have to grab a tangerine or an orange. Look for some of the lesser known sources of vitamin C, like the kiwi, the strawberries, the melon, and also things like tomatoes, tomato sauce, potatoes, and peppers. So besides following having a nutrient-rich diet with utilizing the MyPlate infographic and getting calcium, iron, and vitamin C in, you can also use a wonderful community resource, and that's your Hannaford Dietitian program. Hannaford actually employs a multitude of dietitians. I'll talk to you about our team momentarily. I want to introduce you to something right at the Nashua Hannaford, or even at the Hudson Hannaford, or other local Hannafords you shop at, or potentially your tenants do. Just a little tidbit about being a registered dietitian. All Hannaford dietitians have our bachelor's or master's in dietetics. We're able to take the food and nutrition information and translate it directly into practical solutions for healthy living. So we are your gatekeepers for nutrition knowledge. We would love for you to utilize us as the expert in the field. So our team of Hannaford dietitians, we are about 35 dietitians strong. We cover stores throughout New England and New York. We have had our program for almost 18 years. I've been in the company 11 years now, off and on. As I mentioned, I'm currently in the Nashua Hannaford Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, providing free nutrition education. Our services, of course, are a little bit different right now given the COVID-19 crisis, but we normally offer in-store nutrition classes, large group store tours, healthy living events for schools, workplaces, community organizations like City of Nashua, I've done a few for. We offer weekly nutrition demonstrations. We help individuals with special dietary needs. Let's say someone does have lead absorption and toxicity and they need to know about healthy eating. They can come right to Nashua Hannaford and work with us free of charge. We also help individuals with just healthy eating tips, recipe ideas at point of sale at the store. We educate on the food label, and we also provide associate education and education for our managers. Other than our dietitian program, we have a unique program called Guiding Stars. Guiding Stars has been around for about 13 years. It's a nutrition navigation tool right at point of sale. Hannaford and also Stop and Shop are our sibling companies, so you might have noticed it in Stop and Shop if you potentially frequent the store. At Hannaford, our Guiding Stars program is represented on our shelf tags. And I mentioned it's a credit and debit system similar to our checking account. So nutritional credits would be for things like vitamins, minerals, whole grains, fiber, and omega-3s, which was recently added. All things that confer a health benefit. And then it also looks at nutrient debits, things like saturated fat, trans fat, added sodium, sugar, and recently added artificial colorings. So again, we want to look for foods that have more guiding stars if we're looking for nutrient-rich foods. And when we find items that have less guiding stars, it indicates that they might be a sometimes food in the diet. And in regards to lead absorption and toxicity, they might be things that don't help us with getting the lead down in our system or preventing it. As you're shopping in the store, let those stars be your guide. Look around at those price tags, educate your children, your family members, your clients about this. They go around the store. Let's say they're comparing two products like milk. They would look at the shelf tag and look for the ones that earn the most stars. Every single product before it comes into the store has to be rated. And this is for Hannaford products, name brand products, anything that comes into the store. It's not just Hannaford specific. Our Hannaford products do have the stars on the tag and on the front of the package as well. If you're a My Hannaford Rewards member or you do Hannaford to go, you can actually find the guiding stars right as you add items to your cart. So it doesn't just happen at the store level. You can find it through our online platform. Next, if you have been into the Hannaford store in the past few months, you might have noticed our Hannaford Healthy Picks shelf tags. So these are about 6-inch size discs, and these are located throughout the store. And our Hannaford dietitian team actually calls out healthy products right at the shelf level. So we have a few of them. We've got Power Up with Protein, Heart Healthy, Healthy Hydration, Fiber Filled, Kid Friendly, Dietitian Top Pick, and Bone Builder. So ones that I would try to get our customers to look at the most if they're trying to prevent lead absorption and toxicity, or work on fixing that problem, it would be Protein Power and Bone Builder. And a recently added one that is not on this slide is actually Plant Power. So we'd see that for things like the iron that's plant-based. So you'll see this in action on this slide. These are the Healthy Picks signs at point of sale. And so you'll notice they're calling out heart health on these 2 tags, the monounsaturated fats from the avocados, and also the mono and polyunsaturated fat from the olive oil-based mayo. As I mentioned, I wanted to give a little shout out to some of our community partners that are making it possible for individuals to have good nutrition accessible. The Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter. I have been there for events in the past and have partnered with them, and the work that they do there is just incredible. The amount of food that is distributed to individuals in need, it was overwhelming watching it happen. I know that Hannaford is proud to donate food every single week to the Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter, and going down to also to the Toll Street Mission. Both of them are just essential to the Nashua community. Also, Southern New Hampshire Services, the WIC program, and also SNAP, making healthy food accessible. There are nutrition guidelines that go along with SNAP and WIC. And a lot of the food that I was suggesting, the calcium-rich foods, iron-rich foods, and vitamin C-rich foods, these can be provided right through WIC and SNAP. And lastly, Gate City Community Gardens and Grow Nashua, they do wonderful work making it so that fresh produce can be available to our community members, or even space for gardening. Just some references if you'd like to see where I got my information from today. And then I'm going to jump over to Jessica and we can start our questions and answering session.
Thank you, Katie. This is great information. We will now start our question and answer portion of this session. If you have a question, you can post it in the Q&A box, which is on the right side of your computer screen or whatever screen you're using. You will see the Q&A box. Katie, at this point, I do have one question.
Sure.
The question is, can you comment on contamination of produce from lead in the soil?
You know, interestingly, I think that a lot of that would have to do with where something is being grown. So unless the soil is being tested or maybe has had prior issues with lead buildup, for a Hannaford standpoint, or even your local community garden, that would be pretty challenging to talk about the actual level that would be in, let's say, spinach that was grown in the soil or potatoes that were grown in the soil. So our best safeguard is going to be know our farmer or know our purveyor like Hannaford, but also rinsing, washing. If you're worried about lead buildup, you can always peel some of the skin off if you wish. For me, I have never actually been concerned about lead exposure through consumption of fruits and vegetables, because overall, the big message is consume more fruits, more vegetables. Something else that grows obviously in the soil is our whole grains. So I would say your best bet is to consume fruits, vegetables, whole grains, plant proteins, and worry less about the lead exposure through our soil.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from the audience? You can certainly type it in the Q&A box on your computer screen there. Okay, I'll give it about a minute. Okay, sounds like everyone got their information that they needed, Katy.
That's okay. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with Hannaford, our program at the store level, certainly depending on the clients that you're working with, depending on what you're doing in the community, we really are a great resource. Right now, we're doing a lot of virtual education, and that can be for heart health, diabetes. Last evening, I was teaching a class called Flavors of Fall about roasting root vegetables, and also simplifying squash cooking. We are able to partner with any local community organization right now through virtual. We still are doing our one-on-ones, masked and socially distanced. So if you do have someone that you're worried about, if you're working in healthcare, if you are just know a family member that's looking for help, food allergies, new diagnoses, it is pretty challenging to get access right now to those health professionals. So if they need to see us, we can meet them at their own level, whether it be virtually like this, or socially distanced with mask in the store. But just know we're still available, and we're really quite useful when it comes to just general nutrition questions specific to lead toxicity and just helping them balance the diet.
Katy, we did just have one more question pop up.
Oh, yeah, I see that there. So April is asking, if someone's going to Hannaford for meeting with a dietitian, do they need to schedule it or just walk in? And that's a really important question. So dependent on the store, you can always visit hannaford.com/dietitians, which I'll type into the box momentarily. So it's hannaford.com/dietitians. You can actually hover over each individual state and see where the dietitians are located, and also their respective days they're there. I'm in Nashua Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. I do ask if you have a dietary concern that you set up an appointment with me, still free of charge. And the reason for that is I do teach classes, and I also do food demonstrations, which right now are not involving food, of course, because of the COVID-19 crisis. But yes, you would want to set up an appointment free of charge. Usually they're 60 to 90 minutes. So it's a great avenue. You can even just do virtual for the first visit, and then we can kind of shorten the length of time that we meet if needed for safety. But yes, absolutely set up an appointment. They can also call the store 603-889-3700 to make an appointment with me. Great question.
Great, and we'll make sure that we do have this information, your presentation and so forth on our website.
Perfect. Other questions? And if it's not related to the topic at hand, that is still fine.
Okay, I'll take that as I think our question and answer session is over.
Okay.
Well, thank you for everyone for joining, and especially Katy for presenting and providing us all this valuable information. We will be taking a break and then reconvening at 10:20. You can certainly look at the agenda that's available under lobby, and you can navigate to the agenda to see what's coming up next. And I hope everybody else enjoys the rest of our conference. Thank you, Katy.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye.